Do you believe the UAE will go for our islands, and what happens if they do? As in, take the islands for themselves.
Yeah, actually, this has been a major issue between not just the Islamic Republic and the UAE for so many years, but also the Iranian people versus the UAE for so many years, which is currently with the situation that we're having is making a lot of Iranians a little bit conflicted because the UAE is the only country right now, other than United States and Israel, that is taking a very aggressive stance against the Islamic Republic. So some Iranians are warming up to UAE. They're like, oh, this is great. Finally, we have a third country. Also, recently we saw in UAE that they removed all Islamic Republic flags everywhere that was referring to Iran, and they're replacing it with the lion and sun flag. For example, in stores when they have Iranian apples, red apples, every country, every fruit or every product that had the flag of the country that they come from. And now you could see in the UAE, the flag that they have for the apples is the lion and sun flag instead of the Islamic Republic flag. So some Iranians were seeing that and they were loving that. And they were like, oh my God, I never thought I would have a positive view of the UAE. But the issue, so if we ever go back to talking about the islands and the border integrity of Iran, that would be more important to Iranian people than, I don't know, the lion and sun flags. Would go anti-UAE immediately, right? Because that's the number one thing that the Iranian people find sacred more than anything else, is their border integrity. More than anything else, more than any religion or God or Shahnameh or Zoroastrianism, whatever you think this is. Like, I would argue if the Iranian people had to choose between democracy and border integrity, they would choose border integrity. If the Iranian people had to choose between secularism and border integrity, you would think that they choose secularism given how much they hate Islam in their government, but they would choose border integrity. Okay, if the Iranian people had to choose between human rights, equal individual human rights among Iranians and border integrity, they would choose border integrity, because to Iranians, their land is their country, and a violation on their land is a violation against Iran, and nothing was more important to them than Iran. Right? They're willing to give up everything for Iran. And those islands, Tunb Kuchik, Tunb Buzurg, Abu Musa, those islands, and UAE has claimed that they are for UAE instead of Iran, and a lot of Iranians are like, hell no, they're over our dead bodies. I hope UAE is wise enough to give up on those claims, because the best chance that the UAE has against the Islamic Republic is the Iranian people, and the tension that the UAE has is with the Islamic Republic. And if the Islamic Republic is gone, that tension does not need to be there anymore if they give up on these claims over these islands, right? So, because at the end of the day, with or without Islamic Republic, you have to live side by side with 90 million Iranians, right? You have a chance in getting rid of the Islamic Republic. You don't have a chance getting rid of the Iranian people. And you're a tiny little country, and this is a population of 90 million people. And if your priority is to have peace in this region, you have to get under, you have now, and now you have to get gain their favor, win their hearts and minds by like this. The lion and sun flag has done you a lot of favors. Like, it has made many Iranian people look positively at you. And both United States, Israel, and the UAE's greatest weapon against the Islamic Republic is the Iranian people. So that's why it's wise not to lose this weapon, this great weapon. So, for example, if United States wants to go arm the Kurdish separatist groups, they're gaining maybe some advantage with these people, but they're losing a bigger weapon, which is the Iranian people. Same thing with Israel, and same thing with the UAE. Having the Iranian people on your side is your greatest weapon against the Islamic Republic. It's also the best way to have stability with what comes after the Islamic Republic, because you want this 90 million people to have, you want to Without the Islamic Republic, you want to have a friendly relationship with the government that comes after. So the best way to lose that trust, to lose that positive view of these people have of you, because the Iranian people love United States, the Iranian people love Israel. Okay, the Iranian people could learn to also like UAE. They could learn that if the UAE makes good decisions, they could. Some of them could warm up to UAE, right? But that's a great thing to have. Israel's main priority is stability in the region. Israel doesn't want war. Israel always responds to war. It never starts war, right? So it's a huge asset, for example, for Israel to have a country with 90 million people in the Middle East, where most of them are looking positively at Israel. That's a huge benefit to Israel. So why lose that? It also, and the UAE is closer to Iran. They're like right on the other side. It would be beneficial to the UAE more than having those three islands. It would be beneficial to UAE having a country where the people there have a positive view on you. That's a huge asset for the UAE. And it's not like the Iranian people are going to let you just have those islands. So why even try? Why even try? Why lose all of these people and to try for something that you're not going to even get? Does that make sense? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I believe so. Shadi left and she just came back. She just came back.
Okay. One thing I
Yeah.
want to mention is some people think it's ridiculous for the Iranian people to be this being such an important deal for them, right? For border integrity to be such a sacred thing to them. Aren't other things more important? Isn't democracy more important? Isn't secularism more important? I would argue, actually, I used to actually think that the Iranian people care about border integrity too much. Okay. But then I realized that actually I was wrong and they're right. Okay. If you look at Israel, look at how small Gaza is. And look how much losing that piece of land has cost Israel. Just that small piece of land, just that tiny small piece of land, right? Look at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, right? Look how that's just that small area, how much it's changing geopolitics and trade and commerce all over the world. So a small piece of land is, I know the Iranian people care about it because of identity and culture and history, but strategically, for example, as like I had my Israeli friend was like, oh, Iranian people should just stop caring about keeping Iran intact and just focus on getting rid of the Islamic Republic. That should be their priority, whatever the cost is, even if they lose some land. I'm like, I didn't respond to him because I didn't have the time, but I should have told him, look at, you're Israeli and you're telling me this. Look what not having the Golan Heights costs Israel. That's a small area. That's a very small area. And it makes all the difference for the security of Israel. The difference between having that and not having that is very significant. Right? And I think you should not negotiate that. You should never give up a single inch. But yeah.
All right. To respond, we have Jose.
Okay, Armin, I have a question for you and the other Iranians on this chat. Would it be possible that Iran and oh my God, anyway, that those islands can be put part of a treaty between the two countries? I don't know what the Emiratis use those islands for, but let's say if they use them for downloading or offloading oil, can they lease those islands from Iran, give them sovereignty over the island, but they're using it for their oil industry? That would be a compromise where Iran would have the islands, and if that's the use that the Emiratis have, it would give the Emiratis that opportunity to continue using the islands for that purpose. It would also, with a treaty like that, increase the possibilities of lasting peace between the two countries. Just a thought.
Okay, I could tell you with close to 100% certainty that the Iranian people would not agree to any sort of compromise. They would, whoever wants to give up on the claim that those islands are 100% for Iran, any leader or any politician or any activist even suggesting that will be considered a traitor and not even Iranian for even uttering, for even thinking about those words. That's how sensitive this topic is, right? The specific islands that we're talking about, my understanding is that the main use case for these islands is that they claim that it gives you over the water around it, right? These are islands close to the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see how much they claim over the Strait of the water, the body of water around the Strait of Hormuz. You can see how important this is after this military conflict, right? So if, for example, those were UAE's islands, all of a sudden that body of water around the Strait of Hormuz, the UAE would have claim over it, and therefore, based on international law or international suggestions, as I like to call them, they would basically have claim over how much, who gets to say what happens here. So, for example, right now, the only two countries that have claim over that area is the Islamic Republic and Oman, right? And this is why the Islamic Republic, trying to pretend that they're abiding by international law, when they said they want to collect tolls, they even came out and suggested that the tolls would be 50% for the Islamic Republic and 50% for Oman. They didn't say the tolls would be 100% collected by them, because their understanding is that Oman also has claims over that body of water, and they want to always pretend that they're abiding by international laws. But if the UAE also had those islands there, then it would be three countries. It would be the Islamic Republic, Oman, and the UAE having claim over that body of water. One small thing I want to add is the reason why I think these are more important than human rights or secularism or democracy is because the most important right that we have is the right to life, right? The right to life. And when it comes to security and any piece of land that gives you buffer or a strategic advantage for people to be able to defend themselves, securing that is more important than securing anything else. There are countries where they don't have democracy or secularism or a good human rights record, but the people feel safe. And that feeling of safety is more important. And in Iran, that's the main thing we don't have, because our main enemy is actually governing over us, and the main threat to our security is our own government. But before you get any of those other things, you need to have security. And the land that you have gives you security, and losing any of it, especially if you're surrounded by so many enemies, removes so much strategic advantage that you have when it comes to securing your people. But go on, Jose.
I'm just saying, I concede. I just need to hear a good reason why. And you gave me that. Thank you. I was just thinking it probably is put back in charge. He'd want to work with the areas around it. He might have to do some negotiating to gradually get those islands back under his control or something like that. That's all I was thinking. But I can see your point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just like, when I'm giving you the answer, I'm not like, I'm just telling you so that if Princess of Pahlavi ever suggests that we could give up some land to any other people, he would immediately be abandoned as a leader. The Iranian people will immediately abandon him, and they wouldn't call him the leader anymore. And again, the four principles that Princess of Pahlavi has said that his entire team and his entire movement is about is these four principles: border integrity, secularism, democracy, and equal individual rights. These are the four principles.
All right, if we could be a little bit quicker, because we still have, I think, 4 or 5 people on the list. Drew Samantha is next to respond.
I was going to ask, I don't understand, why does the UAE think they have claim to these islands?
That's actually a very good question that I don't know. I should look into that, but we Iranians have been treating it as so ridiculous because the reason why we treat it as so ridiculous is because if we go historically, those islands have always been even if you go during the Pahlavi time, there's maps and everything that shows those islands belong to Iran. But if you go back too far, then UAE is also part of Iran. Right, so you don't want to go too far back, because all of a sudden we have to claim ownership over the UAE as well as a whole country. So we want to go. So yeah, if you go back in the time, those islands always belong to Iran, and there's no time that they belong to the UAE. And if you go back far enough, also the UAE also belongs to Iran. But I don't know what their claim is, and
well, what did UAE belong to before UAE belonged to Iran?
I think the Ottoman Empire. Maybe did the Ottoman Empire had the UAE at some point? I could check.
And like, would the Ottoman Empire have ever had those islands?
Did the Ottoman Empire ever have the UAE, and did the Ottoman Empire ever had the Big Tunb and Little Tunb and Abu Musa islands in the Persian Gulf? Let me see if I could give you a quick response. No, the Ottoman Empire never held formal sovereignty or effective control over the territory that is now the United Arab Emirates, nor the islands of Greater Tunb and Lesser Tunb and Abu Musa. Okay, then who had them? So
I think UAE used to be part of General Saudi Arabia or something, maybe.
So here, historically, the territories mentioned governed by a mix of local Arab dynasties, British imperial oversight, with Iran also playing a significant role. Okay, so basically either at some points just local Arab dynasties, at some points the British imperial oversight, but if you go back in time, then Iran. It was Iran. So yeah.
Were those islands ever just local Arabs?
No, it was Iran. So yeah, I don't know what their claim is. I don't know why they would even say that. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous claim, to be honest.